Right, so Hoofdklasse has begun. There's been one game played, and I know I'm late with these predictions, but I wrote these predictions down before the start of the season, and I just didn't have the time to record it before. So here is one game into the season, 10 predictions for the 2021-22 Hoofdklasse season. So first prediction is HGC will create problems at the top. So we've obviously got the favourites for the title in Bloemendaal, in Kampong. You've got Den Bosch in there. You've got Oranje Rood and Amsterdam and Rotterdam, who are always those teams that make it to the playoffs or pretty much every year, and they can compete for the title. And you never think of HGC as a team that is there or thereabouts in the playoff spots, can create some trouble against any team really. But this year is completely different in my opinion for HGC. They added Willers, they added Zach Wallace and Alan Forsyth, who are incredible talents. Alan Forsyth is one hell of a goal scorer. You add that, you complement him with Mark Bolter, who they added as well. They had an influx of youth with guys such as Lucas Veen, who are excellent players and who aren't yet there in terms of where their potential can go, but they do have the potential. They will get better learning from the additions that they have, from the team, from the players that they already got. And they extended guys like Xavi Van Aas. And then that makes you think, Van Aas, Bolto, Forsyth, Wallace, Willers, is there something in there? And the answer for me is yes. Now, I'm not saying that they will win the championships. I'm not saying that they necessarily will even make the playoffs, but they are a team that can take points off of anyone on their day. Yes, they won't win everything. They won't even draw everything. They will lose some games. They will lose some games that they probably should win. But they are a team that can create some damage at the top. Then we have the second one, and that ties into the... I try to make them tie into each other all the time. And the second one ties into the first one and into the third one. And the second one is that I think Bloemendaal will be hit by injuries. Now, obviously, you have some players and some teams who are more susceptible to injuries. You think of guys like Lars Balk for Kampong, who is very susceptible to injuries. And Bloemendaal, just the way the last season ended with the European Championships, with the Olympics, the season started really soon after those events. They have the Hoofdklasse to compete in. They have EHL to compete in. That makes you think, isn't it a little too much perhaps? Isn't it too much for some players? Some bodies will probably give up in the middle of the season. Some players will probably get tired. They'll have to go through to their youth. They'll have to go to players who perhaps aren't yet ready for the big spotlight. And I think there will be an injury or two that could be significant for Bloemendaal. Now, they obviously have enough talent to make it to the playoffs. They have enough talent to win the whole damn thing if they so please. But there's no guarantee. There's no guarantee. And the third one ties into that second one, and it is that I think Jasper Brinkman for Bloemendaal will have a standout season. I know there's a lot of competition in his spot at right back, but this ties into my second prediction with the injuries, and it's hard to predict a standout season for anyone really, especially when they are as talented as Brinkman and when there's talented competition for him. But good performances aren't necessarily measured in stats, in how many goals they scored, how many assists they made, or how many defensive tackles. There's much more than that goes into good performances. There's intangibles, there's space that you create for each other, there's space that you don't give, there's leadership abilities, there's certain passes that, you know, on the stat, it's one good pass or one bad pass, but some of them are better than the other. It's just the facts. And I'm expecting a big season for Jasper Brinkman. The fourth one is one that won't affect this season so much as it will next season, but I consider the ending of the season and I consider the fallout of the season to be part of this season. And I don't think Alexander Hendricks will stay with Pinocchio next season. Now, the transfer might be announced this season, and that's why I put it in this season. I think he'll leave. Now, he had a great season last year. He'll probably have a great season this year. And when you think of other big teams in Belgium, in the Netherlands, when you think of players that they might need at the back, there's always a lot of turnover in defenses. You think of Kampong, who have guys like Lars Balk, who again is susceptible to injury. One bad injury and he's likely done. You think of Bloemendaal. It might be interesting to pair Van Doren and Hendricks together, Then you have guys like Tim Swan and Brinkman and Hendricks, who are all capable on the penalty corner. Kampong might think, oh, if we have Janssen and Hendricks, that might give us that extra little bit to go over the hump and get that EHL title or get that Hoofdklasse title. I just don't see Hendricks staying with Pinocchio. Pinocchio isn't a bad team. They really aren't a bad team. But they aren't a team that can compete for that championship. And I think with a guy like Hendricks, you offer him a contract, he probably leaves. Next up, Den Bosch will be better. Now, the thing with Den Bosch is that they could make it to the playoff finals this year, I feel like. Yes, they lost Loic van Doren to Dragon again. That's a big loss. He's an excellent goalkeeper. But Den Bosch looked at where it went wrong last year in the playoffs. Obviously, they lost big against Bloemendaal. And where did it go wrong? The midfield probably in terms of goal scoring. They added Kaufman, they added Dylan Wotherspoon, and they strengthened smartly. They strengthened smartly. They didn't do too much. They didn't press the panic button. They didn't overspend either. They kept the team mostly together, and they added a few players here and there who can add a little extra. I'm not saying they will win the competition, but I can definitely see them making the final, especially if they come up against a team like Kampong. It will be harder, of course, against Bloemendaal, but you never know. You never know. Next up, talking about Kampong, let's go to Terence Peters. Now, Terence Peters is one of the best talents, one of the best forwards in the Hoofdklasse, one of the best forwards in the world. However, we saw at the Olympics and at the European Championships, he wasn't part of that Holland squad. And this season is the season where I feel like he will make himself unmissable in that team. And that also ties into my next point, which is about Jeroen Hertzberger. Now, Kampong, when you look at where their goals come from, a lot of them obviously come from Jip Janssen on the penalty corner. He's an excellent penalty corner specialist, uses a lot of power, but also has that precision. And then when you have those goals, that team that looks for the penalty corner because they know that Janssen is likely to score on them, that obviously takes away a few goals from Terence Peters. But I think he'll have a 20+ goal season in Hoofdklasse. He'll make himself unmissable for the national team. And Kampong had a few players leave, but they also had an influx of youth. And that's where I think my prediction comes in. The influx of youth creates more responsibilities for guys like Kellerman, for guys like Janssen, for guys like Peters. Peters, I feel, will play a little more than he did last season, meaning he'll get a few more opportunities. I think he will take those opportunities. He will get 20+ goals, and he will probably establish himself as an unmissable piece in the Dutch team. And that ties into my next point, which is about Jeroen Hertzberger. And Jeroen Hertzberger has had an excellent career. He's still an excellent player. But there comes a time where you have to pass the mantle on, where some players come in and they take a little responsibility off of you. They take a little playing time off of you. They take a few goals off of you. And I feel like this season might be that season for Rotterdam and for Jeroen Hertzberger. Now, I hope he proves me wrong. But I feel like Rotterdam might have to start planning for life without him. He'll have a few, like I said, he'll have slightly less playing time, slightly fewer PCs. Maybe there's a decline on the horizon for him. It wouldn't surprise me. And I feel like Hertzberger and Rotterdam will probably be slightly worse, so to speak, than last season. They weren't bad last season. They weren't great either, obviously, but Hertzberger, as I can't see playing at the highest level for 3-4 more years. I feel like this season is the last for him at the level which we know he is capable of playing at currently. Now, next up, Oranje Rood, and this is one that I'm not very confident about. I don't think Oranje Rood makes the playoffs. Now, yes, they added David Ames, they added Phil Roper, Laurens Hafman, and Thibaut Strootbroeks is still a very, very, very young player who is bound to only get better. But Thomas Briels is sadly on the decline. The team will take some time to truly gel because they did have quite a turnover, much like Amsterdam, which we will talk about later. And on top of that, they lost Teun Benz to their competitors Bloemendaal. They lost Hubrechts to another direct competitor in Amsterdam. That'll definitely cause some problems, and they will cause some problems at the top like they usually do. But I can definitely see them missing the playoffs. Now, I might be wrong. None of these predictions is set in stone. But if any team is likely to make the playoffs for me, it's Oranje Rood. And my last two predictions tie into each other. And I feel like it'll be a transitional year for both Tilburg and Amsterdam. Now, the real progress or regress from the outgoings and ingoings we will see next season. I feel like not this one, but let's start with Tilburg. So Tilburg lost Furlong and Moreno. They lost a few other players. They added Tolini, Casella, Van Goosen, and Manu Prol Perez. They lost Jeroen Delmee to the Dutch national team job. They added Sjoerd Marijne as T1. It's a very good addition, and the additions of Tolini and Casella and so on, I feel, are good additions as well. But the season will still be met with varying results. So you never think of Tilburg as that team that makes the playoffs or that team that regularly beats Kampong or Amsterdam. But the additions are good. And it'll be interesting to see how that team gels, because changing T1 and changing the amount of players that Tilburg did is a big thing. And for a team that isn't one of the best in the Netherlands in terms of Hoofdklasse level, a lot could go wrong, but equally a lot could fall right for them. And I feel like this season is a season where it takes a little time to gel. It takes a little time for them to get to know each other, to truly know how they want to play. And I don't think they'll be better or worse than last year. I think they won't be in any danger of relegation. I don't think they'll make the playoffs either, but it's a very important season nonetheless, where they will build the pillars to build on. Well, they will create the pillars to build on next season. And the same can be said about Amsterdam. Now, the big change in Amsterdam, of course, is Billy Bakker retiring from both international and club level. But there's a lot to talk about there. They added Lachlan Sharp, they added Nico Poncelet, they added Bram Huibrechts, they added Matthew Dawson and Trent Mitten. And those are some big names coming in the door. Now, obviously, the departures of Cosens and Billy Bakker and others are huge losses. But that's where I feel it's a transitional season as well. Can they be expected to make the playoffs? Yeah, they can. But equally, I wouldn't be too surprised if this season is a season where they perhaps struggle a little, where they have to find their mojo, they have to find each other on the pitch. I'm not saying there will be any troubles off the pitch, but where they truly, how should I say it, become a team. Individually, it's a great team. But a team is much more than the sum of its parts. And they also added Joran Romain from Kampong and promoted him to first goalie. They promoted Dan Taphoorn from their youth system, and he'll be goalkeeper too. Now, changing goalkeepers and your captain, and then you add a lot of players, both in defense and up front, who will play a huge role. That'll take some time to gel to. Now, they could start off with a bang, and then my prediction is completely wrong. But they could start off with a loss, and then one loss becomes two losses become three, or a few draws here and there. I feel it'll be a roller coaster season, but next season I'm expecting big things from Amsterdam, but we'll talk about that next season. This season, transitional season, much like Tilburg. HGC will create problems at the top. Bloemendaal might get struck with injuries. Kampong and Den Bosch will fight it out for that final place against likely Bloemendaal in the playoffs. It's going to be an exciting season. And then you have teams like Klein Zwitserland who can create some problems. You have teams like Hurley, who I'm not expecting much of, but will take some points off a few teams. It's inevitable. You never know what's going to happen. I'm excited for this season. I'm excited to see the additions of all the squads. I'm excited to see what they will be like without some of the players that they lost, especially Amsterdam without Billy Bakker. But this is it for this video. I'm sorry if this video comes out a little later than expected, which it probably will. But hey, this is not my full-time job. So enjoy Hoofdklasse, enjoy all the hockey season, all the hockey that is finally back with spectators. I cannot wait to see what happens this season in Hoofdklasse. I cannot wait to see what happens in Topklasse in Belgium, in Spain, in Germany, in England. Lots and lots of transfers, obviously, after an Olympic year. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll talk to you later.